Did I ever tell you the Penelope story when I worked at Eddie Bauer?
Nope.
So we were trained at Eddie Bauer to greet people by their names. Like if they used a credit card check, you always said, I have a couple good stories. Harry Butts was a customer of mine. Maybe it was Boots, but I pronounced it Butts.
No.
So this woman comes up and she gives me a check, and I'm like, "Oh, Penelope, that's a really interesting name." I can tell you, even to today, I can tell you exactly what this woman looked like.
Oh no!
Because she was super short, and
she looked in your face
she
for a
looked up
long
at me, and
time.
she's like, "It's Penelope." I was like, "Well, that's a pretty name too."
Is that the nickname?
Is that short for Penelope?
I went home and told Liz that story. She's like, "You are such an idiot." She's like, "You've never heard of the name Penelope?" I'm like, "No." I'm like,
Never
"I grew
seen
up
it
in
written out.
Kimberly.
Right.
Everybody was like Lisa and Chris and,
There's
Penelope."
We got Tyler's on.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's up, guys?
There
Hey,
we
Tyler.
go.
Hey.
Here he is.
How are you?
Good. Sorry you got to see me first. So
We need to work on our first impressions.
Yeah.
exactly.
Good
Exactly.
Lord.
This is not a good one.
Thanks for the stickers, man.
I'm
These are
Kurt,
cool.
by the way. Yeah, thanks for the stickers. All the swag is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's courtesy of Drew. He's king of swag. So,
There you go.
Okay. Well, we'll thank him then when he
Yeah,
gets
that's
on the
right.
phone.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome.
So I take it back. Is that a hat with your logo on it or something?
Yes, it is.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Kurt,
We
that's a
didn't get
sticker.
any of those.
Hey, ask Drew. He will hook you up.
Oh my god, that's a cool hat.
Here you go, Kurt. Here's a hat.
Yeah, his little helmet.
Yeah, there's- there's your hat.
Oh yeah, that's
There you go, Kurt.
perfect. I love it.
You can put that on.
It's a little hard hat. I love it.
I hope you can get all your. I hope you can get all your hair under that.
Now I
thing.
can go play baseball.
Tyler, where are you hanging out tonight?
I'm in Tampa, Florida.
All right.
This is my house. This is my game room in my house. So,
Nice.
Cool.
Very cool.
Well, and I had to sit up next to the bar. I figured we'd be drinking a little bit, so
Oh, we
it's
will.
only
There you go.
appropriate.
We
That's
will
right.
for sure.
You only drink at the bar?
Well, no, but it just looks cooler, you know.
All right. We'll give it to you.
That's awesome. So Tampa, where you started or where you ended? What's the settling in
Well, no,
Tampa?
I never played for the Tampa Bay Rays. I grew up in this area,
Yeah.
Okay.
so
Got it.
I moved here when I was 5 years old, and always came back here in the off season, and never left. All my family's here, so here we are.
Very cool.
That's great.
And Tyler, did I see you just recently formally retired? Hung him up for good?
Yeah, formally, I've been retired since the end of last year. I knew that was it.
Oh,
It
you
just
did?
took me a while to pull the trigger on the official release. I'm not a big social media guy, so finally got something out there, which it feels nice to kind of just put a ribbon on things, I guess.
That's nice. Well, a hell of a career. I've watched enough baseball to recognize your name and remember you on the mound. But great run. I mean, how many years did you have?
Oh, thank you. It was parts of 16 seasons, so long time. Yeah.
Wow.
That's
That is
awesome.
That's great.
Were you on the initial DC Nationals team? Were you-
No, so the first team was actually, yes. In 08, I made a couple spot starts for that team. So yes, I was.
So
Yeah.
you did get to be a part of that. Okay. I was going to say.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Are you seeing Alton?
He's
When you
not.
talk?
He's just looking at me, I think.
Oh, the God. That is awesome. Just give him a black screen.
We got to do something about that.
Yeah,
So,
it's
So
amazing.
nothing's coming through on this?
I see Tyler when he's talking.
Yeah, it pops up when it's talking.
do you see anybody other than me, Tyler, or just me?
Just you.
Let's just have Tyler
You're
talk
lucky
the entire
night.
time, so we don't have to look
You're
at
lucky
Kurt.
night.
He wants to get that.
It doesn't matter if he's talking; he still sees me. So,
Oh God.
oh god,
I wonder why that's.
yeah. You're gonna pick up on who gets picked on the most in this group, Tyler. So just
Derek, that
Just let
profile
you know.
pic that popped up. How many years old?
Hey, I'm that guy in my circle, so it works.
All right. So this is why we're connected. I get it. This is
Yeah.
great.
Yes.
In Dutch, they say the pissball. Ik ben de pissball. So you can call yourself a pissball. That's the guy who gets the blame for everything. So
Is that a
Okay, yeah, that's me.
or picked on. That's a real thing.
All right.
So that's a real thing.
Is that a Wisconsin thing?
No,
the
that
pissball?
is a Dutch thing. That's when I lived there. Ik ben de pissball.
What are you wearing?
I
Wooden
am the-
shoes?
I am not wearing my wooden shoes today.
Well, Tyler, we're getting thirsty. We've been sitting here for a little bit trying to prepare
Oh,
here.
I am.
And the bottle's been
I am
sitting on the
parched, my
table.
friend.
Yeah, the bottle's been sitting on the table. We've been
Nice.
staring at it. So it's a beautiful bottle.
It looks like Drew's on.
Thank
it, too.
you.
We
I
can
see
start
Drew has a
drinking.
really cool hat on too.
Yeah, so that's Kurt.
He's the guy that's going to ask you about the
Yeah.
hat for
I'm
the
gonna
next,
ask you
for the
about
next
the
hour and a half.
Relentless. Yeah. And that is Elton.
Oh, I'm getting myself a pour ready.
Yep.
There you go.
And then we got Dave over here, Krat.
Hey, guys. Nice to see y'all.
And then I'm hanging out in this corner. I've got the soundboard on this end. So
Cool.
thank you guys for doing
All right.
this.
Yeah.
We're stoked.
Of course.
Totally stoked. And by way of intro, so Sean Finger is a partner of mine. She and I have been working on Red Iron projects for the past 5 years. She was just writing an article and featuring Field of Dreams, and she was like, I got this bourbon article, and I like bourbon, but not as much as you guys know about bourbon. So I said, if you could introduce us, we'd love to help out. And so we're going to promote this in the magazine article that she's sent off to publishing.
That's cool.
Very cool.
And we'll have this up on the site probably by Friday.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
we're good to go. Yeah. But
Appreciate it.
yeah. Oh, we can't thank you guys enough. This is we've been doing this for about 4 years, and the origin of Bourbon Boys is we all four of us worked at Lowe's Home Improvement in corporate, and then 3 of us were kicked out, and the other one's hanging on.
I'm the dumbass in the group.
That's Krat. He's staying. He's got a good thing going. But we got kicked out, and we said, hey, one thing we don't want to lose is the friendship and the camaraderie. And then what we did was we just said, all right, once a month we'll get together, we'll grab a bottle of any bourbon, and we were just starting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we went on a trip to the Bourbon Trail and did not take
No, we did
Kurt with us.
not. No, we did not.
That's true. A group of us left before we got the whole bourbon thing going.
That's right.
We did the Bourbon Trail
Before you got
and,
smart. I think it was my idea actually to do the podcast.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And it started off as we were just having great conversations, no podcasts. We just were drinking bourbon, catching up, figuring out what's going on, and just sharing what we're going through as 50-year-old dads, guys, and then realize that there's not a lot of outlets for guys to have conversation. And so you must have run into this too, where you've got, plane, hotel, locker room, bullpen, dugout time where you're working, but finding a close group of guys that you can be honest with and kind of work shit out that you're going through with family and everything that comes with that, work, life. And so what we started here, a lot of folks who listen to the podcast have said that they've started their own bourbon group for that reason. Like, it's got to be a place where guys can get together and just be open about what it's like being a guy. And so we've kept that strong for 4 years. Kurt keeps coming back. We took him on the Bourbon Trail.
I keep getting invited,
last
so I'll
year.
show up.
Yeah, yeah.
If there's booze involved, I'll show up. So
That's right.
And we realized that there are plenty of bourbon podcasts out there. We're not trying to be the number one, and there's plenty of guys who know all the nerdy stuff about bourbon, but we're about just being approachable, making the conversation about life, lore, and libation. So we do try to balance the conversation between the bourbon and what's going on in our lives, and we have fun. We never take it seriously. If you've listened to any of the podcasts, that's
that's
clear.
self-evident.
Yeah. Occasionally we'll sneak a rye in or sneak a whiskey in, but in the beginning, I think we were, trying to hold true to just bourbon And it's been a blast learning and tasting bourbon. We've tasted probably close to 200. And have had a couple not so great tastes that we've been honest about. But for the most part, we've really enjoyed the conversation. And then this segment called Staring Down the Barrel is giving time to the guys who aren't the big Brown-Forman, Buffalo Trace names, and just talk about like, well, how do you do this? What's it like? So the whole idea of staring down the barrel is living with the decisions and the stress that comes with it. So we've had some really, really great conversations with people who are just passionate about it and putting everything into it that they can and learning as they go.
That's awesome. Yeah, and as you'll learn, I could care less about this whole thing. So I feel no, that's really cool. I mean, it's funny 'cause it sounds like you're pretty much telling our story when it comes to camaraderie. Like keeping, I say it's keeping the yearbook open. It's one of those things.
That's cool.
That's really good.
When Tyler and I play together, it's some of your most formative years, and you're doing this. You're living your dream next to these guys, and then, they take the jersey away, and you're supposed to go back to your corner and hopefully catch up with a guy like later in life if, something lines up. So it's been something for us that, you're exactly right, is having that, that safe space, right? That you can sit there and guys that, you can relate to and understand the grind of it. Mm-hmm. It's all relative. So that's really neat.
Yep. That's cool.
And we don't pull any punches. We bust each other's balls as much as we can, and
mostly mine.
Easy target.
Fuck you.
Me and Drew, we don't do that at all.
Yeah, I hear you.
None of that.
That's right.
That's so good. All right, you guys have a pour because we can jump right in. Get to know you guys and learn more about this.
Well, we know one person sitting at the bar, so
yeah, exactly.
So good.
So, Drew,
this is my first time drinking this, so I'm excited.
Tell us what you think.
Drew, where are you located?
I'm in Carmel, Indiana, so just on the north side of Indianapolis.
Yeah. Okay.
He's closer to the corner.
So people ask, "Oh, are you guys? Are you from Iowa? Are you based in Iowa?" No, I'm from Indiana. That's flat Iowa.
Yeah.
So, so just kind of started this, like any good tech company starts from a garage. I started this from my basement bar.
Cool.
But now we moved into real offices and kind of just been riding this wave. But yeah, just on the north side of Indy, so get to enjoy all the seasons.
Cool.
Nice.
Where are you guys at?
We're in North Carolina.
Just
north of Charlotte.
Just north of Charlotte.
Okay, cool. My parents live in Travelers Rest. So.
Oh, yeah, TR.
Oh, yeah, the old Swamp Rabbit Trail. Yeah.
What? What just happened?
And the guy doesn't know what a nor'easter is. Seriously.
What the hell's a swamp rabbit?
We'll show you later.
Okay. All right. So I'm from Wisconsin, Drew. So I'm very familiar with Indiana because I've been through it numerous times. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's our state motto is that you drive through us.
Yeah. I can tell you, I've driven across and I've driven down. So, but I think I stayed in Indianapolis once. But otherwise, we just kind of go through it. And the question is, are we through it yet? Are we through it yet?
Right. Okay.
It's beautiful, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think we just went by that exit. No, that's. Okay.
But I will tell you, so my wife and I just drove up to Wisconsin last year around this time, and there was, what's the main interstate that goes north-south up through? What's that?
65.
65, yeah.
Yep.
There was a section of the windmills or the wind.
Wind
that
turbine.
was like unbelievable. Like it. Like we could not even get our heads around how expansive it was.
Yeah.
And then you every once in a while will see the semi with one of those blades on there. And you're like, oh yeah, it kind of hypnotizes you a little bit, especially with traffic, which tends to happen on 65 with those two lanes.
But see, here's what I don't understand: you have these hundreds of windmills moving, and then there's one that's just not moving. So how does that happen?
yeah, it gets a day off. You know?
Do we always have to be working?
Exactly.
It is.
You can do your windmill research later, Kurt. We want to talk about bourbon.
No, it's like a compliment to Indiana. It's
Science
actually
project.
really something pretty spectacular to see, I think. I mean, it was
They look like
unbelievable.
they're just giants.
They
to like
are.
the
They're
horizon.
huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty cool. So
It's always a fun wormhole for a passenger to get into when you drive through there to learn to Google it and learn the random windmill facts. And so, hey, I'm on your side on this. It
okay.
is-
Well, here's what you need to
That's
do.
the only one you can be
you
on.
Need to,
Yeah.
You need
The
to
last one.
sponsor. You need to sponsor a billboard with a big ass QR code on it, so people. Because that's exactly what I did. I'm like, I got to look this up. So I'm like, how much does one of these cost? Like, how much energy does it produce? How long are the fins on the windmill? It's
Yeah, if this
It's
bourbon
actually
thing,
not. It's pretty
if
fascinating.
this bourbon
So-
thing doesn't work out,
I
you guys
know.
can
Okay,
get together.
okay,
and,
all right.
we can do a windmill distillery. How about that?
I love that. Actually, you got an idea there. Actually, so
I'm just drinking this brown.
Oh,
water.
Drew's got some ideas
Let's
for you,
go.
man. Just wait.
Oh, all right.
okay. All right. Well, I guess I'm kicking this thing off.
Let's do it.
So
What section you got?
I got life. So
You got the one that says Kurt.
I got the one that says Kurt on it. So going back to what Derek said, I mean, the core of everything we do is really, and what we talk about is life and the lore and the libation. So obviously about our lives, the lore of the whiskey or the bourbon or the rye in few occasions. And then just the libation itself, like tasting it and enjoying it. So we're going to go through those three sections, and we want to just talk to you guys a little bit about you, about your history, and so forth. So I would ask you about your background, but obviously we know you're baseball players. But I think it'd be really interesting to just hear a little bit about your journey, and then how you came to say, let's do bourbon and get into the world of spirits. Like, how did you get there?
Cool. You want me to take it?
Wow. Yeah, go ahead, man.
All right. So before I played professional baseball, I went to Stanford as a product design degree. My goal was to design shoes. So I really wanted to make shoes or cleats, but then got drafted out of there. And throughout my career is when I kind of got into collecting some super rare bourbons and really just fell in love with the stories, like you guys say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just the idea that, yeah, money can't really buy this. You have to know the right people. And, you know, you have to know the right stories. And, you know, it's just the hunt, right? Anything when I design things, I want it to be for an emotional buyer, because I love those emotional purchases where I see something, whether it's a vintage t-shirt, like I have a vintage t-shirt. That's one of my favorites. It's a Pistol Pete Maravich shirt. And I love wearing that. I love wearing that because somebody that is 20 years old appreciates it. Somebody that's 80 years old goes, what do you know about Pistol Pete? And then, you know, like stuff like that. Like, I love that because that's just well executed top to bottom. Right.
Yep.
And so I enjoy bourbon stories like that. I mean, there's numerous ones. And so I collected stuff that goes back to Prohibition era. 1916 is the first year juice that I've distilled. But then, you know, what really hooked me was Hirsch 16. Went to a bourbon bar in San Fran, and it was called Hardwater, and they had Pappy flights for $100. And the owner came up, and we asked him what his final drink would be, and he said it was Hirsch 16. And I said, great, let's get a round of it. And he goes, well, let me see if I even want to sell it to you.
Wow.
Which immediately sells me, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because- so I said, fine, I'll buy you a drink of it then. So we got it, and it was unbelievable. And I had just been kind of limping into bourbon at the time. It's probably 2013-ish. And we Google it and see that there was a book called The Best Bourbon You'll Never Taste. So on the flight home from San Fran to Indiana, I read that book and started going headfirst into the sand, finding every unicorn I could. So I have every version of A.H. Hirsch. And like I said, getting down that wormhole, my other best friend other than Tyler, we were on a road trip and we were talking, hey, if we were to start our own bourbon brand, this is in 2018, what would we do? And this is where we came up with the idea. And so it was an idea that kind of never went away, and we just kind of kept building on it as no different than this, kind of spitballing over drinks and going, this would be cool if we did this.
Yeah.
And a way to kind of pay homage to the stories that we hunted. So Tyler and I went our separate ways from a career standpoint playing, but we always stayed friends. And so when I called him to tell him I was retiring, I was done playing, he said, all right, if you're done, then you need to do that bourbon idea. A, I'm tired of hearing about it. Do something. But B, like, look, dude, like, we got to see where this goes. And, that was kind of the big thing. He's like, if you need me to back it, I'm in. Which, I give him all the credit in the world, because I probably would still be sitting here drinking somebody else's bourbon talking about it. But I was like, all right, I'll figure it out, man. Yeah. And I love that.
That's so cool that you're able to take something that's so foundational to who you are, right? And then tie it into a passion like bourbon, but do it in a way that's connected back to that foundational passion. Super cool. Not everybody has that opportunity.
And I think too, I again, you add depth to any of these good stories when you look for a bottle, right? And it's it's a 5-spoke wheel, right? You got the juice, you got the story, you've got the packaging, and then bottle 2, right? It's not just selling one bottle. It's, and if you create those spokes and you have the depth and you have the authenticity, because it's about the storyteller as much as the story. And that's where we have a leg up, because look, that's what we say, the most famous corn in the world. And there is tact that needs to be had to that corn, because it's sacred in the baseball world, right? And the right story needs to be told. No different than Horse Soldier with the medal, right? Mm-hmm. Far more heroic than we are, but in the sense that they tell the best story, and they're the ones that should be medal. And so that's been the fun part, is understanding how we can execute on multiple levels, not just like, hey, cool idea, great novelty. No, it's adding depth, trying to deliver on all ends.
Awesome.
That's great. Awesome. So I had 5 or 6 questions for you, of which you answered all of them. So I have nothing more for you.
Well, I wanted to. So
but
kudos.
Go ahead, because I want to circle back on one thing.
Okay, I was going to say, so kudos to Tyler for giving the push, because just like what we talked about in the setup here, sometimes having a group of guys you trust and who will ride you when you need to be ridden, and tell you to calm down when you need to calm down. So Tyler, kudos to you. Was yours willing to support this? Are you a bourbon fan as well, or was it just, I know Drew well enough to know his passion, and if we partner on this, it'll be a crap ton of fun?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of layers to that. So yeah, for me, I remember the initial idea, and again, Drew kind of touched on it, where it was just like, we're sitting down in the apartment after a game, and they're telling me about this idea they came up with. And, like I said before, Drew's got tons of great ideas. And I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea, of course. But to actually pull it off didn't seem like a real thing to me in 2018. I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, of course that'd be great, but we'll see, kind of thing. And so we kept mentioning it, hanging out in the off season, talking about it. Man, that would be so cool, whatever. And we were still playing. So as soon as Drew retires, he gives me a lot of credit, but for me, I was never the bourbon enthusiast like him.
Yeah.
So when he tells me that he wants to kind of follow a passion of his, of course I'm going to be like, yeah, dude, do it. And I'm going to support you in that, because I know you, and I know as soon as you're passionate about something, it's going to be a win. So I'd be an idiot not to support that. Right. So that's kind of where my thought process lied in the whole situation. But at the same time, I still had my doubts on whether or not we could even pull this thing off, and he starts making phone calls and is like, hey man, I think this could actually happen. And I'm like, no way. And so anyway,
oh shit,
the ball just kept rolling down the hill, and we got a bottle in front of us, and we're in stores, and it's a great product. And I'm the co-founder, but the founder is one of the more passionate people you'll ever find in the industry. I'm almost positive of that. So we're in a good spot.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That's great.
All right, Kurtron.
I was just going to say, like, in any relationship, friendship, there's always two sides. So I was going to ask, Drew had a great story, so I was going to ask, okay, Tyler, tell us your side of the story.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, my side of the story was like, I was a little more reserved about like this actually taking place, and okay, yeah, farming the Field of Dreams, yeah, that's gonna be possible. And then he's like, no, it is. I'm like, Okay, let's do it.
There was a lot of like, as more phone calls happened, it would be me calling Tyler and be like, hey Clip, yeah, we're good. Like, keep going. Like, good. Let's just, and like calling our other buddy Andy and being like, dude, we're not getting any resistance on this. Like, I think we got a shot here. Like, all right, we're going. Like, hey, we're here. And it just, it's pretty amazing. Like, it's been quite the marathon, but one of those things where we've been so lucky too. And I, on top of like Tyler's support, but having the people I met through collecting. So, the Winsons of the world that, like, I got to connect with them and they were beyond helpful. So the camaraderie and advice that I got through the baseball network that I created, whether that was through old college teammates or whatever, I had a pretty good playbook going into it, because that's where I was going to annoy anybody and everybody I knew to learn. Because I didn't, this is, when you're trying to go from the bar stool to the shelf, you need to have the pros, right? And like, it's no different than somebody coming to talk pitching with us, right? Like, if I go try to talk bourbon or create a company that could be a brand power, I better know what I'm talking about. If I'm going to go try to say, like, hey, I know how you guys do it here. So it's been very awesome to kind of tap into the experience and how helpful guys have been. And it goes back to, like I said, the camaraderie. I think whether you're a consumer or a supplier, any of it, people that get it, get it.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we that's a theme we've heard a lot, talking to the guys who are just starting out, is this is a community that doesn't feel, threatened by competition. They embrace new folks coming in who are hungry to learn. And everyone we've talked to that is starting out, they're like, yeah, I went to someone who's already doing this and said, how are you doing it? And there was no door slamming. It was, come on in, grab a shovel. This is how you do it. And that's it. Just seems so rare, for people to be that excited about something that they're not threatened by another competitor.
I think so much of that's because of it's a craft, right? Yeah, and I think everybody's got their own, whether it's an expression or a taste that can come forward that it's not as competitive. But
so it's awesome.
Everybody can throw hard at this point, to baseball analogy, because this is how I handle everything in life. But everybody can throw hard, but you still have to be able to pitch, right? Like, somebody can tell you, but for you to make good juice out of it, like, and execute through and through, that's the key. And, like I said, if you're able to tap into those resources. And for me, one of the first conversations I had was with somebody asking for production. They said, you should do more production than we can offer, which I shut. I'm like, that was another call to Clip going, what do you think about this?
Yeah. That's a positive note.
So just to be clear, I can't throw hard, nor can I pitch. So
this is true.
This is true.
So Clip, I gotta ask Tyler.
Me neither anymore.
I highly doubt that.
So Drew, you touched on two things kind of related to the lore of the distillery, and I was on your website earlier today, and one of them was kind of, again, the idea behind the corn. And so I would love to hear kind of the background of what was that first phone call like? Like, how did you track down to be able to get access to that well-connected of a corn, if you will, to your passion and your foundation with baseball?
Yeah, so I looked up who owned the movie site, and then from there found the LLC, and then hopped on LinkedIn, found somebody that was a board member who... their email was in their header or something, and I just sent a cold email saying, hey, I was just curious. I see that you're associated with the Field of Dreams movie site. Would love to get in touch with somebody there. And luckily for me, the guy was a baseball fan and was like, wait a second. What, are you that guy? And then
excellent.
I'm guessing we would not have gotten a response from that
Probably
email.
not.
Yeah, no. Mine's still sitting out there. Yeah.
And so I ended up getting in touch with kind of the guy that was the head of it, who put me in touch with Andy Ray, who is one of the three brothers, but kind of the head brother that they have the lease on the land.
Yep.
And and I asked Andy, I go, what do you do with this corn, man? He goes, just take it in town and sell it.
Oh, jeez.
All right.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Got an idea.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And Tyler says, "This is my friend Drew. He's got an idea."
Yep.
So from a production perspective, is there? I'm assuming they harvest the corn, they put it back out, and you guys just continue to pull off that same plot of land, or how much corn is there?
Yeah, so the movie site is 143 acres,
Wow.
and then of that, you got about 116 acres of corn. So it's kind of like, if you look at it like a winery standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
we're at the mercy of the yield, right? So 2 years ago we had 32,000 bushel, right? So that was the first thing I had to learn to do, is to speak in corn.
Yeah.
So I called up in a farm town. I called the farmer that has the most land. I said, "Mr. Starkey, can you teach me about corn?" But no, that's, so we can make, that's depending on what mash we use. I mean, that's plenty of corn.
Got it.
To push out a ton of bottles that would be well beyond, our wildest dreams. But we have taken every kernel of corn and put them into barrels.
Yeah.
So, and that was the key, was sending 36 semis out to find production. So that was the first hurdle, was calling about anybody with a still, in 21, going, hey, and they're like, well, we can get to you in 24, 25.
No way.
Yeah. So we almost had a couple people that were going to slide in, and then once the pandemic orders came in, all the big boys upped their production, and
Oh yeah.
that favor wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
But it was good. This is, like I said, I learned a ton in that process.
Yeah, that's super cool. The other thing too, just really intrigued by what looks like your investment structure. On the site, it said something around like MLB players. And so are there additional baseball guys that are investors in this? I know you mentioned your network earlier.
Yeah. So far it's just Clip and I, but we've talked to plenty of our old teammates, and we haven't officially brought them in because we're kind of waiting to see how this plane landed on the first batch, because we didn't know once it hit the shelf what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So we were kind of going to wait for that to roll through, and then we were going to kind of address it when it comes to, are we going to try to scale this? Because obviously we're pretty much running a Christmas tree farm here, where we're trying to play it that far out, right? So, and that's pretty capital intensive. But there's also a fine, you want to get your buddies involved, but we also want to keep it tight, because I think we've done, we're trying to maximize what we can do without having to answer to too many people.
Sure. Well, I think the plane landed pretty damn well based on what I'm drinking. So
Yeah.
So guys, let me ask you a quick question, because I want to go back real quick to the life piece a little bit. So you play baseball professionally. You both retire, and you come up with this idea, which it sounds like you had for a while. So how do your families react to this, where suddenly you're going to start a bourbon company?
Drew, you got to go. You got to take that one. Man.
Tyler, you're awfully quiet, buddy.
This is going to be good, I can tell.
So as Tyler said, I'm not one to shy away from ideas, nor to talk about them or whatever and say, this would be really cool. I can try to figure out every world problem. Who knows if it's right or not? But when I told my wife that, I was like, hey, this is what Clip said, I got to do it. Like, I'm going to go. And she's like, okay, if you're going to do it, you got to go. Like, you have to do it. It can't just be something like, kind of like during the pandemic, I kind of half-ass renovated our basement bar. Like, if you told me, don't make it like the basement bar. If you're going to do it, don't make it like the basement bar. And so I started from the basement bar instead, and then I made it better than the basement bar. But yeah, that was kind of the whole thing. She's like, if you're going to do it, you need to commit to it. And yeah, I mean, she's been great, because it's the time that involvement that this takes is as much or more than baseball was.
Yeah.
So a lot of it too is an adjustment for me, because I'm used to living by the baseball schedule, where our lives would shut off once around Valentine's Day hit. It was over until October. Like, not around your phone. Like, you're going for a W every night, and that's it. Yeah. That's your pop quiz every night.
Yeah.
And in the off season, you try to catch up, get your head above water, and then rinse and repeat, go back. So now I'm learning real time management, because I create the schedule, and it's like, okay, well, how do I get, I'm taking my off-season workout program and trying to work in emails and like saying, okay, here's where I go normally, and this, trying to time block it just like I did training.
Yeah.
And at the same time, be a dad, because that's part of the reason why I wanted to hang it up and not play, was to be around and be a dad at the same time.
Yeah.
So trying to find that balance of like, it's not a project, it's a company, but it's not playing, and so trying to figure out that whole schedule side of things and understanding like, okay, I need to make sure and have a heart out at this point, because as you guys can tell, I can talk about this all night.
Yeah.
Now, Tyler, this is all This is all getting started. Correct me if I'm getting the timeline right. This is all happening. You're still on the plains, right? You're still throwing at this point. You're still pitching. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I was still pitching.
So Drew's like, hey, I know that I know you're in the dugout right now. Just got a quick question. Like how much of this is you're kind of looking at it going, oh man, this could be something that is gonna consume me, or I encouraged him, but man, he's in it. He's going for it, and I mean, that's you got two full-time jobs. It sounds like.
Well, no, I don't. Drew and our team has made my life really easy. And I got in it with that intention because I was still playing, and I was basically like, man, I can only do so much. But
yeah.
But yeah, Drew likes to take my money and use it. But no, I'm just kidding. No, now that I'm retired, I've definitely kind of, stepped up a little bit, but my business card still says CGO, which means Chief Golf Officer. So if you guys are looking for a golf round,
you're the guy.
That'd be great.
That's what I offer. I bring a bottle with me, and we play golf, and I teach you about the Field of Dreams bourbon. So it's a good gig.
Like a good day.
Sounds like business development.
That sounds like a great Airbnb experience right there.
That's awesome. So as you guys think through, again, kind of the process, you got the corn, you got all the production in place. Sounds like you got all your, kind of your business, your financing going. What was like the biggest hurdle you had to come through?
I would say it was the production side.
Yeah.
Because we knew, we didn't know necessarily. We knew we had that initial batch of corn,
yep,
but we didn't know going forward if we were going to get it. So we were just trying to get as much juice down with the most flexibility of where we can take it. Like just get it down and get age on that corn and on the juice, right?
Yep.
And then, because in the end it's a commodity, but that production side was the problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And being able to find the stills and the open stills that we could use. Like I said, it was just kind of a mad dash to just get that stuff distilled, and then kind of we'll figure it out later.
So how many different facilities were you guys leveraging, or were you able to find somebody that had enough production in one place?
So we ended up just using one initially. We got really fortunate with Panther up in Osakis. And so they were able to take us in. So that it worked out great, and they've done great work for us. And then, now we're working with Journeyman as well. So they do our bottling. And so, again, that's just through the baseball connections. That's a CGO connect right there.
There you go.
Because his old golfing partner is the guy that actually does our case shippers. So
nice.
Excellent.
It's all full circle stuff. But it's the production side, I would say, was the biggest hurdle, because I anticipated getting the corn was going to be the biggest one, right? And then I just assumed,
oh shit, I got a lot of corn.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? And so that's the production side of it. And then it was, well, how do you, like any other whiskey company, how do you get this to market effectively? And also, in the meantime, get the concept out, right? Because the MLB game got punted back in 20 because of COVID. So,
right.
That's part of it. I was like, we need to push this and try to piggyback the attention that this game's going to get. Granted, I didn't anticipate the powder keg that game was going to be, nor did anybody. But the fact that we were able to kind of get around that and just kind of ride the momentum of it, helped, because it completely changed the climate of that entire town.
Yep.
After the game happened.
I think just to chime in a little bit, piggybacking that game, I think helped the company a lot because it forced our hand in kind of wanting to go to market as quick as possible. But we, obviously with coming up with a good product, but it when you have like deadlines and you have things and goals that you want to reach, it makes you really good at doing those things. And I think it helped the company a lot because of that.
Excellent. Al?
Oh, I was going to try to think how to word my question. So you were talking about going to market, and I apologize if I'm getting out of line with the sequencing, but we've had the privilege of talking to several kind of startups. Some chose to really focus on the consumer experience, bringing people into the for tastings and then selling bottles out of that. Another is focused exclusively on distribution. Through the process, since you have such a rich, marketable name, how have you guys decided to do that? Are you leaning heavy into distribution, or do you actually have a tasting room and an experience you're working the clients through or the customers through?
Yeah, so we initially, like I said, we've started pretty thin. So our first thing that we did was last fall was a canned cocktail. So we did an RT, just kind of as a dress rehearsal to get a feel for what the distribution and the third tier game was about. And also to kind of see where, like, we just did it in Indiana. So non-major league market in the RTD category, which is as, saturated as it gets right now.
Yeah.
Seeing where we can play in that, because knowing that if we could get away with moving RTDs, because the stadium experience with our brand plays perfectly.
Yep.
But seeing if we could do that as essentially a filler until everything ages, it was good. And we didn't have nearly the packaging we do now, but it was something just to see how it worked. And I'm so glad we did that because we knew that obviously our flagship is the bottle. And, our releases on that is what this company is all about. That's where the passion is. I say the RTD is kind of the t-shirt toss. And we, the bottle is somebody, getting a home run ball, right? Like that's kind of the way you look at it. And the t-shirt toss is great. But, it's something that in the right place, we love it at the golf course, but in reality, that's kind of new school baseball, and our bourbon's old school baseball. So, but from the bottle standpoint, we just are traditionally distributed in Iowa and Indiana. So we plan to kind of expand beyond those two markets. But with the velocity that we got in Indiana and Iowa out of the gate, we kind of got stretched thin because we only have the 22,860 bottles, right? So, 3,800 cases. And then with what our e-commerce has done, which we've pretty much instantly sold out in all the drops that we've done on our website.
Wow.
To me, that's the most exciting part. I think the e-commerce side, like that's where you understand where your fans are. And then that does the work for us. And so then that way when we're limited, because we only have so much juice, we can't be misfiring, right? We need the headshots. And as long as we can find that, and I can get these 22,860 bottles in the most brand passionate hands of the people that get it the most, then that's going to help us on bottle 2, 3, or X down the road.
Yeah. Get to Wisconsin.
Get a better team. You're so you mentioned a couple things. One, the RTD, which I'm going to go with ready to drink, right? Mm-hmm. Short for that, for our two listeners that are scratching their heads right now. And then that's the Southpaw, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then you mentioned this 22,000 number. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I guess that's probably one of the things. When we first came up with the idea of using this corn, we had the idea to add depth by paralleling baseball numbers with whiskey numbers. So everyone knows that there's a million baseball numbers and stats. You can find a stat for anything in the world.
Yep.
This guy hit a home run on his parents' anniversary for the first time ever. But those same numbers that may or may not have pushed Tyler and I out of the game, we might as well use to tell whiskey stories because you can make proofs line up with them. And so the thought was, with this first release, what's a good year? And they're like, yeah, if we could do around 4,000 cases, that'd be pretty good. And that's always been one of my favorite trivia facts when I talk to people is like, how many people do you think in the history of baseball, 155 years, have ever made it to the major leagues? Usually it's a 6-figure number.
Yeah.
And it's always just kind of a cool fact, right? Kind of a cool, like, yeah, that's neat. And so I was like, well, that's around the number of cases that we could use. And I was like, well, we can make this like trading cards, because then a number with a player. And it was just something that I initially did for fun because I love having little hidden things in there, but it's kind of turned into, like I said, baseball cards. And like, again, you're just adding depth. And so when I sign the bottles, I'll sign them with my player number on there. There we go.
Yeah.
And so then that way, because Tyler and I wore plenty of numbers in our day, but the one real number is that DMV number of what you got to the big.
That's awesome.
That is so great. That is, I mean, nothing else. I don't think we've heard anything else that even comes close to being that much of, I wouldn't say an Easter egg because you're not trying to hide it, but that like so plugged into the authenticity of what this means to you, what it means to the players, what it means to the history of the game. And then you go, and this is not to burst a bubble, but then you go, and then we're going to talk about a fake field, with a movie. You're like, but still, you said it in the opening, like it's the world's most famous corn. And Alton and I were talking about that today, and we're like, yeah, there's really no other place that we can think of on the planet where you go, well, that corn's from, because
nobody cares.
No one cares.
Except for the farm. Right. Nobody cares, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because, look, I fell in love with the idea because, the movie's great.
You can't help it. Totally.
Right. And so, like, the dad angle, like, my dad's the reason I got to the big leagues, the whole thing, right? What was crazy, 6 months into working on this, I was taking the family out, so I made my oldest son watch the movie with me because he never saw it. And we're watching it, and the part where Kevin Costner goes to James Earl Jones's apartment, there's a piece of mail that he marks it to show where his apartment is. And that on the envelope in there, it says P.O. Box 7017, Indianapolis, Indiana 46207. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Indianapolis, like that's so I text it to my dad, and he goes, that's your grandpa's old work address, right?
Come on.
Jeez.
My grandpa worked agent in Indianapolis. So I'm like, no way. And so then when he goes to Minnesota to find
Doc.
Moonlight Grant.
Yeah.
And he gets out of the van, and in the background there's a Nelson's Bakery sign. And that was my grandpa's last name. And that grandpa was from Newell, Iowa. So that's when I knew, like, okay.
If you don't do this, you will hear people talking to you at night.
Yeah. Or you're going to get...
I need a voice. I got a damn movie, right?
Exactly. I know it's a movie, but I'm hearing these voices.
Or you're going to get struck by lightning. Yeah.
But again, there's just so many things that kind of line up of like, there's, I'm a big Omen person. And after that, I was like,
that's an Omen.
Omen the movie, or, sticking them in the movie thing, or no. Just, that's crazy.
That is really crazy, right? So shifting gears a little bit, tell us about the bottle, because the bottle's really unique.
Thanks. So the bottle choice I had was one of the other first things that I went to Total Wine. I stood about 15 feet away went across the aisle, and I see what would grab my attention. So unique bottle shape, right? Mm-hmm. But then, if you looked at premium, you have to go with a broad shoulder, right? Any premium bottle tends to have a broader shoulder, but it's easy to fall into blocks when you do that. Yeah. Baseball is cool because of the unique shapes, right? You got the diamond, you got home plate, which is like a near impossible shape to have in general. But then, like, you have the arcs and everything. So I found this bottle, and the glass in it. If you look at the medal of the Cy Young Award, I don't know how baseball nerdy you guys are, but the medal of the Cy Young Award is this shape. So that's the award for the best pitcher in baseball. And so once I saw that, I was like, because I was going to custom design it, and I was like, that's what we should do. And so it's a nod to everything. So
that's great.
The shape is a nod to the Cy Young Award. The blue wax top is a nod to the original AHR 16 blue wax release.
Nice.
Wow. You thought you got all the
Guys,
you got all
all.
the angles. This is awesome.
But see, this is what I love.
Yeah.
And Dave, I know you hate it, but he's creative. He gets the emotional component
hate
behind
it?
the product. Like,
Speaking of the
are you
product,
listening?
Designer,
Are you
industrial
listening?
designer.
Are you listening? I know.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what I mean. That's what I
Look,
mean.
as long as we don't
I
get to
appreciate you, Drew. I so
As-
appreciate
as
you.
long as we don't turn this into
Hey, I told you guys. I told you guys.
as long as,
We
as-
appreciate you too, Tyler.
as
Just-
long
just
as we
be
don't
clear.
turn this
Just
into
to
an
be clear.
ideation
I'm
session.
just yeah.
I have to sell. Is this who I have to sell here?
This is so good. I love this.
well, let's talk about the product.
I know. I was like, I mean,
That's true.
I'm
We
on my
haven't even
second
talked
pour.
about the actual product yet.
It's super.
I've already had 2
I was going to say, Kurt and I've already done our second pour.
Yeah.
So.
So what is super unique about this call is there will probably be very few people who will be able to experience this, right?
Right.
You've created exclusivity. You've created a limit to what's going to come out in each batch. I would imagine you're going to produce more batches, right? It's not like, well, that was fun, and we've produced enough bottles to represent every new MLB player. So next year during the draft, we'll add another 100 or so, you know. So eventually people could get their hands on this who are listening in our area. But for the time being, you know, sucks to be them, but it's pretty awesome being us. Tell us about the bourbon itself. Like, what do you,
Yeah.
you know, do you have a mash bill that you're sharing? Is it something that, you know, where did that come from? And then as far as the taste goes, we have no problem putting this thing back. This is it's really good. So congratulations
really good,
to both of you guys, because that's hard to do.
Yeah.
That is hard to do.
And we've had some not so great ones.
Couple, yeah.
You guys not hurting my feelings first off. So. No, I think, you know, you mentioned approachable, right? And you look at the initial batch one, that's our number one key is the approachability of it, because I wanted this to be able, somebody that's a baseball fan that might be getting into bourbon can enjoy it, but also the bourbon, right? Because, you know, the key, I want it to drink it, you know, you drink it neat, but if you put a cube in it, I say it's buttering the corn, it opens up, but doesn't wash out like some other lower proofs, right? And so it was just an opening. I say it's kind of the ceremonial first pitch almost.
Like it.
And that way it's approachable, you know. So our mash bill is 73 corn, 22 wheat, and 5 rye. So there's no barley. So then that way it kind of shows corn. And then that way it gives you kind of have the corn. So I modeled the taste off of Four Roses 125. So probably one of my top threes, because the corn in that scares you and then kind of lets you off the hook. And then if you know, put a couple drops in it, maybe whatever, it opens up into a completely different animal, but still with. And so that was kind of the thought where it's like, hey, here you go. Here's something that you're going to have the corn showcase. You're going to have wheat land the plane. And then rye is going to give you kind of the hook to come back for more. And so, like I said, max approachability, you know, we'll start proofing it up and start playing more into that range. But at least for this first one, we wanted to make sure that it was more accessible for everybody.
Yeah, I love the balance between.
And that's in. You know, sorry. I heard Drew say we're going to proof it up. I think we both kind of discussed just recently that we are, as a company, I think we landed on, and correct me if I'm wrong, Drew, of basically just coming out with the best product we could possibly come out with every single time, whether that's 115 proof or 92, you know, like, you know, for us, it's like, you know, and I know a lot of people put a lot of onus on that, but we just want it to be good. And I think that's at the end of the day what we're going for.
Yeah, well, you guys,
so that's it.
Y'all did it.
Expression, right? And you know, you guys are saying we talked about doing a rye because, again, there are sweet ryes now, and you know, there is ryeing in baseball, right? So we can do that, and the puns are endless.
We got Nolan.
But no, it's I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, again, top to bottom, I always give the loose, you know, zany parallel to the Stone Cold Steve Austin beer, where it's a $14 4-pack that I gave a chance to, because at worst I would just smash them together. But it's a great, and like, I'm like, dude, that's a win. Like, that's cool because you buy it for that, but then you enjoy it, and like, that's how you get somebody to buy it again. And,
Yep.
and like I would be selling the authenticity short from the movie site end of it and to my own collection if I'm selling stuff that it doesn't live up to it. And so I think that's, like I said, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And Tyler, it was already too late before Tyler tasted it.
I told you.
His joke at the beginning wasn't that much of a stretch because when we were bottling it is the first time he tasted it. So,
hey, I got faith in my boy, man. I got faith in my boy.
Yes, you do.
Well, it's a really good balance. I mean, between the sweetness on the corn on the front end of it and then the rye on the back end. It's a warm 93 proof. It really is.
The finish is really nice.
Yeah, you mentioned the
finish is
115.
really
I'd love to see a higher proof too.
No, he said 150.
150.
I think Tyler said 150. Did you not,
No.
Tyler?
Oh,
No.
if I did, I apologize. I meant 115. But
I was going to say.
That's illegal in
Okay,
37
I was going to
states.
say, if you do a 150, I want to know.
yeah, no.
we're going to see how much you guys really like that movie.
A 115 would be awesome.
Yeah, I do hear voices.
So
I think they're the paramedics. Yeah.
So, Drew, you mentioned the Four Roses 125 as your top three. What are your other go-tos outside of this stuff?
I
On an everyday basis. I mean, obviously not your kind of high-end collection stuff.
I always stink at this question because my everyday, I always like trying something new.
Same.
Yeah, that's good.
But I would say I'll say my go-to gift bottle, which I think was an inspiration to this, because I had a bunch of people ask me like, "Hey, you're a bourbon collector guy. I gotta get Dad a bottle. What do I get him?"
Yeah.
Right.
We get that a lot.
And you don't know their price point.
Yep.
You don't. So I always just be like, "Hey, get them Jefferson's Ocean." Right.
Yeah.
Fair. Right. It's on a ship.
Yeah.
Yep.
You either taste the salt or you taste the marketing. Either way, it wins.
Yeah. That's for sure.
And so like that's kind of the thought where so for me, like I do enjoy the taste of that, but gosh, I'm all over the place, man. I really like learning the stories. I taste the stories. I don't really have go-tos because I just go try something new.
Yeah.
I think
I did.
I love that answer, and I think all four of us, if you were to ask us what our favorite bourbon would be, it would be whatever I'm drinking this week. Because we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of it. Part of it's the hunt. And in North Carolina, it's really weird too. It's like we don't get access to a lot of stuff, and so you'll be in the ABC store, which is where we get all our liquor, and you'll just see a bottle, and you're like, I don't know anything about it, but the price point based on what they're charging, it better taste good, right?
Yeah.
So we'll give that a shot. And sometimes you win, and sometimes it's like, good Lord, this is awful. But that's always the response I give people too. Is like, it's whatever I'm drinking today because it's just fun for me. And some people are like, well, why bourbon? It's like, well, there's a lot of history behind it. There's a story behind it, but it's also just kind of like the discovery and the exploration of like, all right, I'm going to try that. It may suck, but for the most part, I mean, the wins are pretty high. We've had our handful here, like we mentioned earlier, that are just awful, but for the most part, it's just fun. Just trying out the stuff that tastes good.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a good match as far as like what you've been able to leverage for the lore behind it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the spirit of the sport.
Yeah.
And what it means, in history, what it means to the culture.
Yep.
That it actually is a really good bourbon.
Yep.
Is fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh God, they were so close. Like they had everything except this thing is just garbage.
No, it's a little
This
bit
is just
of
so
the
good.
perfect, little bit of the perfect storm between the storytelling and the again the tie back for me that I just love that you guys have done is like you've taken two passions. One of them's foundational that you guys have been doing since you were probably 6 years old, right, with baseball, and then tying it into this. It's just not everybody has an opportunity to do something like that.
Yeah.
And it's really cool,
No,
super special for
sure.
sure.
Yep, for sure.
Love it. This is so good.
So
Tyler,
good.
what's your go-to? What else? What's number 2 and number 3? This is number 1.
Yeah, I just recently did exactly what Drew spoke on was, now that I'm in the business, I kind of go to the liquor store and I'll look at comparable price points, comparable proofs, and kind of see where other companies land with their products. I don't know whether it's real or not, but I think we stack up against anybody in that realm of things from a taste standpoint, from, me personally. I think if I were to pull anything off the shelf and say, any bourbon in the world, pour me a glass, I would say the Pappy 13 year, because it's a rye, and I tend to lean towards ryes for whatever reason, and I literally just learned this about myself in the last 6 to 8 months. Drew made me buy a bottle of Four Roses 125 because he liked it so much, and it turns out I kind of liked it as well. But I started out my journey in the bourbon world way different than Drew did. I was a Scotch guy for a long time. Okay. And so I think maybe that's where my rye palate comes from. But there's some Scotches that I'm very fond of. But yeah, as far as just pulling like a $30, $40 bottle off the shelf at a liquor store, I don't really do that much. I got 2 young kids, and I don't really have time to drink that much. So.
Or you have a reason to drink.
That's fair. Yeah. What's the talking about family? What's something that keeps you guys up at night? You're starting off in this whole new venture. Neither of you, outside of recreationally, it sounds like you had the background in this space. What's something that you discover that you're like, never would have thought that would be in our way? And then after that, what's the one thing that keeps you up at night?
Well, I think we should start with what actually makes me sleep at night.
There you go.
So I have 3 kids. So we'll start with that, but that keeps me up all night. But no, I would say for me, the number one stress I have is how to scale it tactfully, right? Like having it grow the right way without overextending and diluting the brand, the storytelling, or the authenticity, right? Because I think there's an art to people here in Indiana and kind of in Iowa, but there's only so many people that have really heard the story, right? And so we can't take that assumption that, we can't go start the book in chapter 2 if we're going to go to a new market, right? We have to start over there. So it's the effective scaling of this, because you don't want to try to do too much and lose what has made it special to begin with. I don't know if that's just a politician answer right there, but that's kind of that's the big thing. I don't want to lose, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, but too many cooks in the kitchen of this is really cool.
Yeah.
Don't stay out of the way.
Yep.
Yeah. So
there's so many branches that you could grasp onto along this journey of all right, in 3 years we want to go nationwide, and then we just put all our eggs in that basket, and we do whatever it takes to get there, and then 3 years down the road you're like, man, we shouldn't have done that, So I think to Drew's point, it's let's just stay authentic to what we're doing, scale it the right way, make a good product, and then for me, I'm way more laid back than Drew. So I'm for me, things will work out. Things will work out if you do that.
Yeah. No, it is great. And you guys do have, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? You got a great story to tell, but it's not always a simple story, right? The drink itself, the product being good is the simple part of the equation. Not getting there, but what's in the bottle is good. But you've talked about so many nuances from the bottle shape, tied to the Cy Young Award, to the number of bottles. There's so many pieces that you don't want to lose, and if you go too fast, it will be easy to step away from that or compromise that. So you guys I do see the dilemma in that of how do we grow responsibly, but at the same time don't miss the opportunity. So
yeah,
a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tied to that, would you guys, or have you guys ever thought about doing production on your own at some point? I mean, obviously this is batch 1, but farther down the road, do you think that's something you guys might explore?
Having our own production facility?
Yeah.
Now you're talking about landing on the moon, Dave.
Well, I know that's some massive capital expense for sure.
Well, yeah, and that was the thought was, if I can run this initially out of a cloud, why not? Right?
Yeah.
100%. Smart. Super smart.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think there's just so many. We have a different brand, right? We have a different story. We have different needs. Like, we can't just go source MGP juice and slap a sticker on it. Can't do that.
Right.
So, but those challenges is what makes us special. And that's where, if we can pull off having our own production facility and make that as authentic as we can, like, yeah, that'd be cool. And again, we would have sold through nearly 23,000 bottles in our first 6 months. Yeah, I would have thought that was crazy, but we're just kind of pushing that snowball down the hill and seeing where it goes and making sure that it's kind of in line. It's on the track. Like, if we want to do it, we can.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what, we've been talking about. It's just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you guys are smart to stay focused on the authenticity. And if you ever get to a point where you have to go into the production, at that point, explore it. But I think you guys are smart to stick with. I
mean, it's like a church cookbook, right? Like, for me to come in and be like, hey, here I was playing Major League Baseball. I just retired. I was so great at baseball. I'm going to be great at whiskey. So let me tell you how to do your job. Just because I was so, that's how 30 for 30s are made,
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's make this a church cookbook, right?
Yeah.
So, like, we're gonna broker the corn, deliver it to you, and here's what I want it to end up like. You go do your thing, and then we'll figure out how to tell the story with the juice you make with the corn that we provided, right?
Yeah.
And that's where, like, that's us staying in our lane. Now, as we grow, like, as long as I get to the point where I know who to hire, then we win, right?
Yeah.
That's the big stressor to me. As you can tell, I can talk about this all night and try to sell it, and I can raise the capital, but I don't want to hire the wrong person.
Yeah.
And I don't want that fall into the wrong hands. And until I feel confident in that, like, that's where it's like, we need to, no different than baseball, work through our A ball and just kind of, you gotta get your reps. Because if you just try to go, hey, we won in this one, there could be one factor that we're overlooking,
right?
Whether it's somebody, a different angle that we missed, thinking that we can just go blanket approach this and win. That's when you get screwed, right?
I think you guys are being super smart.
It's all
Thank
Clip.
you.
It's all Tyler. Tyler is
Well, he is the CGO.
Yeah, exactly.
Tyler seems to be the
Well, I play, I do play another role, and it's not on the business card, but yeah, a little bit of talking Drew off the ledge every now and then. It's
right.
a part of my role as well.
You guys have got the yin and yang going. It's great.
I was just
We do. We have 100%.
I was just gonna say, Tyler, you're like the EKG. You're the flat line in the EKG, right? And Tyler's like,
Nothing-
I
yeah,
don't know if that's
compliment in there.
That's a compliment, by the way. So,
No, I take it as one.
Yeah.
And you are right. You are right. Nothing.
Kurt's
in the
not gonna get
business
a hat.
world,
Kurt's
I
not
feel
getting a
like
hat.
I fit. I don't know if I fit that well in the business world, but I do know that if within my baseball career, you have to negotiate contracts and you have to go through arbitration and you have to have difficult conversations with people.
Yeah.
And so that's the one thing that, like, in the business world that I have no problem doing, because I don't get emotional one way or the other, man. I just am just,
Yeah.
you could say the worst thing in the world about me or the company or whatever, and I'm just like, okay, that's fine. You're allowed to feel that way, but I feel this way or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, my heart rate doesn't go up or down. I'm just like,
There you go. Steady.
There you go. So you get what I'm saying. So
yeah.
and you don't have to be in the business world to be good at it. So
No doubt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're probably better on the outside.
I was just going to say.
Exactly.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say,
Yeah.
you're probably better off. So I do have a question going back to, I mean, you guys have told some great stories about, Drew, you kicked us up with like your first moment with bourbon, right? And how that got you passionate about the liquid and the spirit and everything that goes with it. So I'm curious, on the flip side, has there been a bourbon that's just disappointed you? And why is that?
And if you haven't, we can send you a couple bottles.
Yeah.
They're still on my shelf.
We have a couple on the shelf we can send to you.
They're behind Kurt on the
I'm
shelf.
staring at one right now.
Yeah, we can go pick a couple up.
Yeah, I would say I don't have one like to name, but I do remember buying it, and it was in 2012 ish, and it was because it was around when Angels just took off, and somebody else did a port wine finish, and it was like a $90 bottle in DC, and like I was like, great, that's their take on Angels Envy, awesome, and it was brutal, and I just I hated it, like and so so I don't remember what it was, but I vowed to never be that bottle, because there's just something where like if you have high hopes when you purchase it. And like, especially if you're going to over leverage the price point.
Yeah, exactly.
We see a lot of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because it's expensive doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah. That's in 2012 too.
Yeah,
like kind of before. It became super trendy.
So that's
Well, because that was one of the first ones I saw. That's like, oh, they took Angel's playbook. They must know what they're doing.
Yeah, not so much.
Yeah,
never assume, right?
Drew, when we've talked to other distillers or owners through the podcast, it seems like, and I think Derek touched on it a little bit too, about the community and how people aren't competitive, but do you have other kind of go-to organizations that you share ideas with, or ways of driving the business forward, other distilleries?
Yeah, I mean, luckily for me, one of my college teammates works with a guy that used to work for Diageo, so that's one of the.
Oh, well, that's a good connection.
And then he's out of it now, but kind of gave me like a rundown, and so there's that's probably landed on the moon, maybe, or beyond that. Yeah. Put that into Mars-ish area, but yeah. So like I said, I hit it from all angles, whether it was appropriate to where we are as a company or not. I don't think there's anything wrong with acting like you're in the big leagues when you're in rookie ball sometimes.
Sure.
Like I said, I don't necessarily want to give all the names out, but there a lot of people that have connected me and everybody's been good. I would say Wes Henderson has probably been up there as one of the best, because, again, I knew him from a while back, and just he takes my calls if it's a random small question.
That's great.
Which is really cool because he just gets the passion side of it, and it's like, yeah, of course, like I'll support it. But yeah, I would say he's up there as one of the big guys.
That's
awesome.
Great.
Awesome.
That's great.
You guys have been super generous with your time. We could keep talking. Bourbon, baseball, life, all of it.
Or just keep drinking.
Well, we're going to do that, but we'll let you guys get back to those kiddos. Probably need a little bit of attention before bed. But we end all our podcasts with a session called Last Call. And so basically it's a scenario. So for you two guys, we know what you'll be drinking. It's usually which of the bourbons are we tasting would you have, and who would you have that taste with, or what questions would you ask? So for you two guys, pull in a little bit on the baseball history, so especially with the Field of Dreams, who would you like to walk out of that cornfield and face in the batter's box? Any era, any time.
This has got to be my favorite last call ever.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm stoked.
I know my answer.
Right off the bat.
Yeah, all right.
Boom.
All right, Tyler, kick us up, Tyler.
And it can't be Kirk because he's an easy out, Tyler. Who would you want?
Well, I mean, for me, I want to face the best hitter that ever stood in the box. And this is a very controversial statement, but not really, I don't think. I want to face Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, best, I don't know. He's probably the best hitter of all time, in my opinion.
Good one.
I like it.
Man, that's a really good one, Clip.
I know.
I know.
That's why you went first, Drew.
Now, I really want to ask, not to keep the time going, but how would you pitch him would be the other question. But
I'm really I'm curious too. I'm like, what do you got? Do you want me to tell you how he would do it, or
Yeah. I mean, Drew would know, and honestly, I don't know if I would know, because
Drew's got a ball in his hand.
In his prime, he covered everything. Mm-hmm. There was an at-bat that I saw that he had against Eric Gagne with the LA Dodgers when Gagne was in his prime. Now, granted, Gagne was throwing 100 miles an hour,
Yeah.
but cut from the same cloth. He had a great changeup. So, and he had glasses. There you go. So there would definitely be changeups thrown, and I would flirt with it only because I wouldn't care if I gave up a home run because it's Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was a lot of pitchers who probably felt this way when they faced him.
Yeah.
And that's maybe why he got maybe more pitches to hit than even he should have.
Oh yeah.
But I would have to go up and in on him with a heater at least once in the at-bat. I don't care what the count was. I would have to try it, but just to see what happened. He would probably hit a homer, but I would try it. But I think there would be change-ups thrown, and there would be up and in heaters, and just see what happens.
See what happened from there.
Kurt, there's a lot of pitcher speak going on here. We'll translate for you later.
I know. I'm like, I need a dictionary to understand what all this means.
Love it.
Hey, do you guys want to know, like, so Clip is selling himself short there, saying that he can't get Barry Bonds out, because one of the biggest blessings that has come out of this company is when we contacted Baseball Reference to get the numbers that are associated with the players, right?
Yeah.
The guy responded in the email saying, because he saw Tyler's name on there, hey, Tyler, by the way, do you know that in the history of baseball, right-handed pitchers against left-handed hitters with a minimum of 1,500 at-bats, you are number one in the history of baseball.
Damn.
So it's Tyler,
Wow.
it's Tyler Clippard, Nolan Ryan, like Mariano Rivera, like all these. He is number one. So
that's awesome.
What Tyler would do, he would throw a first pitch fastball up and in, and then throw him a 1-0 changeup right down the middle that Barry would pop up to the infield, because Tyler also has the highest infield pop-up rate of anybody in the history of the game.
Love it.
Now, for me, if I was facing, I would probably hang a slider, and it would be hit into the pond. and I would be looking for,
All right, well, then you can pick somebody else. Who would you take, Drew?
Griffey. Jr. was a guy. I'm obsessed. Because I remember as a 9-year-old kid, I would get so mad at him because he would strike out on a fastball up and in, and I vowed if I ever got to the big leagues that I would throw him a fastball up and in, and then he retired like 3 years or whatever before I got. and like, mind you, that's the Maverick mentality that I had, that I could just go casually throw a fastball up and into Ken Griffey and get him out.
As a 9-year-old,
positive energy.
That's the kind of thinking that starts bourbon companies.
Yeah. Again, if he took me porch, I would gladly accept that.
Oh, yeah.
So
love it.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
That's the fun thing about facing good hitters like that, is if they hit a home run off you, they kind of were supposed to. So it's okay.
right.
Not their first lap around the bases, right?
Exactly. It's like, all right. I gave one up to Barry Bonds, Chipper, Ken Griffey. It's like, okay, no big deal.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Very
That's
cool.
awesome.
That's very cool.
I love it. I'm with you, Krat. This was probably the best.
No doubt.
Great.
This was very cool. Very cool.
Last call.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, again, thank you for your time. You got a great story, a great product. This was so much fun. Love the energy.
Yeah.
You guys
Yeah.
are a hell of a duo. It would be fun to get on the course with you guys at some point.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, and listen, if there's anything we can ever do to help you guys out from North Carolina, we're happy to help.
Absolutely.
Amen to
100%.
Absolutely.
Well, you're helping us right now, so we appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Well, when you're on the cover of Rolling Stone, just mention our name.
Our 4 listeners will appreciate it.
That's right.
Yep.
We have more than 4 listeners.
Most random magazine, but yes.
Yes.
Well, there's a story behind that, but we're not going to go into that tonight.
Oh, that's
fair. Yeah.
Gentlemen,
So,
again,
gentlemen.
thank you so much. Cheers. And
Cheers.
Bourbon on.
Bourbon on.
on.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it, guys.
Is it appropriate to chug the bottle?
Yes,
Go for it.
is.
Yes.
Oh, nice, Tyler. I like it. We're coming to Tampa Bay.
There you go.
Cheers, guys.
All right. Thank you guys.